Good morning from Panhandle Outdoors with Winston Chester. Panhandle Outdoors, your source for fishing, hunting, and information for folks who enjoy the great outdoors. Now sit back, relax. It's Panhandle Outdoors.
Good morning, folks. Welcome to Panhandle Outdoors. I'm Winston Chester. Glad you're here this morning. Got a great show lined up. Let's get started with our weather, brought to us by Haney Technical Center at 767-5500. Now, don't forget, this Friday is a job fair. You get an opportunity to run by there and check out all kind of folks will be there offering jobs and just fill out some forms and all. I've been stopped by there a couple years ago and very impressed with the caliber of the companies and all there offering jobs. So run by and check them out. High today, we're looking at 67, low tonight 40. So it's going to get back down a little bit cool. Got a good chance of rain today, about 50% chance of rain. Water temperature is 55 degrees. Now let's take a look at our river readings. The Apalachicola, Bluntstown, it's sort of level. It shot up there one time, but now it's really 7.4 is where it stayed. And I know they had to adjust the valves up there, and they got them now at 7.4. Chattahoochee, with its natural flow, is reading a 7.7. So both those rivers are fairly close. Both those. Now the tide chart brought to us by Kent Forest Lawn Funeral Home and Cemetery, and their motto is when carrying counts. And today would be February the 5th, and we're looking again at neap tides, but you're looking on toward the weekend. We're looking at some good strong tides coming on up for the weekend. So I had actual lows at 11 o'clock last night and the highs at 135, but you're only looking at 0.4 foot range today. All right? Now, marine forecast should be coming out of the south, and that's going to be bringing us some rain a little bit at about 8 miles per hour. All right, it takes care of our weather. Let's take our break. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back and welcome Captain Rick Corley.
Good morning.
Good morning. We're talking to Rick. I always talk to him ahead of time, see what we want to talk about. And, you know, we're always talking about boats and you know, fishing and all, but mainly boats. Rick is our boat expert, but I've been to Rick's house before and just seen, you know, he got some nice guns over there. Well, a lot of times we talk about guns off the air, so I said, well, today let's talk a little bit about guns. It's still hunting season, and so much people don't know about guns and caliber bullets and all. So I talked to him last night. Let's talk about some calibers and all that and try to. So go ahead, Rick.
Well, a lot of people don't understand when they're looking at it and they get confused. For example, I've got one right here. This is a 17. It's a Hornady Magnum rimfire.
Okay.
And it's the smallest bullet that they make as far as diameter of the bullet itself. It's very small.
Okay, I'll put it down. We'll see. Can we get that?
And yeah.
Well, we got a line up here.
And then you got a 32 H&R Magnum and a 32 Federal Magnum, and then a 32-20. Well, all of these are 32 caliber bullets right here, these three. Then you have a 38, and it's what they call a wad cutter. It's for shooting targets. And then a 45 long coat, and then a little 410 shotgun shell, and a 410. If you look in the end, you'll see that solid
slug.
Uh-huh. Shotgun shells are different from the standpoint when the number's big, like 410, that's the smallest. Mm-hmm. And then next is 28, then 20, and then 16, 12, 10 gauge. They're getting big. As the number gets smaller, the size of it gets bigger. Well, that confuses some people, especially a lot of women. They look at it and say, hey, well, what are you talking about? Mm-hmm. But, and each one has its own use. Usually a kind of a rule of thumb is, say a 410 will do something at 20 yards in a certain pattern. Well, each time you go up in size, you extend that distance out about 5 more yards. So that a 20 gauge will do it at 25, and a 16 will do it at about 30, and a 12 will do it 35, and 10 gauge will do it out there at 40 yards. Yeah. Same impact.
And we're talking about right now is a good time to insert, like a lot of folks go quail hunting in February, and a little 20 gauge over and under, which is what I shoot. That's just a sweet shooting gun. And a quail, you're not going to shoot a quail long off, and you know that's the distance right there. I don't need a big old 12 gauge to go shoot those birds.
No, and you probably use an improved cylinder or modified at the worst. Yep. And the chokes that we're talking about there, improved cylinder is wide open, it spreads quick, and as you go down to full, that's so that the pattern will stay closer in, further out.
You know, some of the early duck hunters would have those 10 gauge, 10 gauge a full choke, and that was one reason for that. That was a reach up high.
Reach up high and get well, it's a good goose gun.
Yeah,
yeah.
That's exactly what they were hunting.
Yeah, but it's an education in itself. Now, I love handgun shooting, and of course, you've got a myriad. But a lot of people don't understand that. What's the difference between a 380 and a 38? Well, a 380 is an automatic cartridge which doesn't have a rim, as they call it. It's rimless. Your 38, for example, like this wad cutter I've got right here, it started out. It was back in the 1920s, I think, is when they came out with the 38, somewhere around there. But then later on, they came out with a 357. Well, it's the same diameter bullet. Everything's the same except one thing. It's about 1/10 of an inch longer in the case to carry more powder, push the bullet faster, and it hits harder. You can shoot a 38 special in a 357 caliber pistol. You can't do it the other way around, though, because the case won't fit. That's so that the increased pressure in there won't blow the cylinder up and hurt you. When you go to buy a gun, you need to do a little educating of yourself and understand what you're trying to do. Deer hunters, quite often around here, most people use too much gun.
Yeah.
I mean, they do. The 30-06 will kill a deer. Yes, it will. But it's not necessary. And you're taking that recoil at 30-06. If it's a small person, it kicks. I mean, you shoot one all day long. I used to shoot M1 Grand up Fort Benning, and all day shooting, after a while, you get tired of that, and you start flinching because your shoulder gets sore. 243 with a 100-grain bullet will do a very good job on a deer, dropping. And you don't have that recoil. So young ladies or smaller men, 243s are great.
Yeah, and I know a lot of folks have switched over the years from a 30-06 to a 243 just because it's more smooth, and it travels fast, and it's more comfortable and all. And,
a new round that's out I love, and I've got a Mini 14, and that is a 6.8 SPC. It's actually a 270 short is about what it is. And out to about 250 yards, it'll do just about everything the 270 will do, which is an outstanding round for deer. It will drop him, and it doesn't have a hard recoil, and it can fit in a fairly compact rifle. So it does real well. I've got that Mini 14 set up with a full power scope. And most of your long-range shots around here are 150, 200 yards.
That's right.
Rarely do you get a 300-yard
Yeah, we
shot.
don't have these open fields. We're mainly in the woods and all.
Now, if you hunt out west,
yeah.
out in Idaho, where I hunt a lot of times, you want, if you're going after elk, you want a 7mm Magnum. But, if you're hunting mule deer, you might drop down to a 25-06. It'll do it a long way out.
Okay, we're going to take a break. We'll come back. Got some good fishing pictures and some more deer pictures, and we'll be right back. All right, welcome back. Here with Captain Rick Corley. We're talking about boats today. We're talking about guns and all kind of bullets and all, and hope you get a good education from them. Let's look at some pictures now. I've had a whole bunch of pictures sent to me. So, first thing I noticed about this, of course, that's Mickey McCormick. I knew him, and before I saw the deer, I saw that Panhandle Outdoor shirt, so I know that brought him good luck. That's a nice buck there, Mickey. I know the whole family is proud of you right there. Up there in Wausau. Good job, Mickey McCormick. All right, next buck. This is a good one. Alan Chasen up here in Grand Ridge, a 9-point thick body. He was chasing a doe, and Alan was talking about the doe stopped and the buck would stop. And then when the buck stopped, he would just, whatever tree he saw, he would attack the tree and just shake the tree violently. He just had a very exciting hunt on this particular buck. Good job there, Alan Chasen. Okay. Now this next one, I'm gonna go ahead and name this buck. We're gonna call this buck Tom, okay? Because Tom Gurley a couple years ago started sending me a picture of this buck at a state park, and everybody and their brother are taking pictures of this buck, and he's getting so calm. Look how close. This is over at St. Andrews State Park, well protected out there. And I bet we've shown a dozen pictures over this year. Great opportunity for photographers to get out there and take some great deer pictures. And we've had some really nice ones sent in. Even my students have been out there taking the pictures of them. So Jeff, don't say we need to call this one Tom, because Tom Gurley takes a lot of good pictures. All right. Now the next buck, let's see. This is we're gonna show you just a few more. This is Kenny Blake Roberts over at Bear Creek Hunt Club, running with dogs up there. I like to see all that bright orange on you, Kenny, and a nice buck running with dogs right there up in the pine trees up off Highway 20. Let's do a fishing picture. Ernie Cabot got out this weekend. Weather was beautiful Saturday. Did some good red fishing there. Let's show one more. Then we wrapped up that early season. I mean the youth duck hunt was this past weekend, and we got some kids out there. This was a youth duck hunt by William Wise. Sent these pictures in, and all those boys had a great time Saturday up over there in West Bay. Good job. All right, we got more pictures. We're going to catch the rest of them tomorrow. They come in almost on a daily basis, and it just sort of, what it does, folks, these pictures sort of gives us a view weekly of what's going on right here in the Panhandle. Like 95% of these pictures right here in the Panhandle. So appreciate y'all sending them in. I'll get some off Facebook, and y'all send them to me and all. So it's a great barometer of what's happening now. All right?
Yeah. So, let me borrow one of your 40s right there, and I'll show them a little bit difference here.
We were talking. I said, I'm going to bring some of my shells. I just got a 40 caliber Springfield a year or two ago, and that is a sweet shooting gun.
Yes, it is.
I really like that. So I brought my shells. I didn't bring my gun.
Now, Jeff, if you can zero in on these, we'll see if we can't show you. The one I've got in my left hand that I'm moving around right now is a 40, and it's an automatic cartridge. You notice how there's a reset right here on the end, and the rim is actually the same width as the case. That's called a rimless, really, because it doesn't extend out. And of course, this is a 45 long Colt, which the rim actually sticks out beyond. That's so that it won't fall through the cylinder. And this one has it so that the claw, when the slide comes back, can eject that shell, an empty shell. That's the difference. There is a tremendous amount of education that a shooter has to do to understand why he's buying and what he's buying and what his purpose is.
Right.
And there's as many different calibers as you can think of out there for the things you want to do. Now, one of the things that's happened in recent years, in the 2000 years, is the evolution, as they call it, or revolution, in lever guns. Used to lever guns, you had flat-pointed bullets,
right?
So that when you fired, the recoil wouldn't strike the firing pin and fire around in the magazine itself underneath the tube and have an explosion. Well, now they have these new tips on the evolutions, like on the 30-30 lever action and the new 308 or Marlin Express. Well, that allows you to get the ballistics out of a pointed bullet much further out from a lever gun that you never could before. You couldn't compete with bolt actions. Well, now you can. And if you're a deer hunter, and use 30-30, I would strongly recommend those new cartridges of that style because they really do give you long-range performance out there. I just bought a 243 down at Money Miser from Tom and them down there, a 762 Remington Game Master with a nice scope on it. It was a used gun, but I looked at it and it was in great shape. And I think that's going to be a great little deer rifle. It's easy handling and it's good action. Some people don't care for a pump action rifle. It's okay. They use pump action shotguns, and I find that kind of amusing that they don't particularly care for that action in a rifle.
Yeah, well, you don't see it a lot. I think people just not accustomed to doing a rifle with a pump.
Yep.
But we've had an outstanding year on duck hunting and all. We talk about different gauges, but the old 10 gauge. I don't know. Do they even sell those anymore? You ever see a 10 gauge?
Yeah, I got a 10 gauge double barrel Ithaca.
Do you really?
Yeah. It's old though.
That's got to have a kick to it.
Yeah, it does. You know when you pull the trigger. It'll let you know. Of course, it does a good job on the other end too. When you got a goose out there, it'll put him down.
Is it a full choke?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I go about a mile up there, I think.
I put it this way: it makes good anti-aircraft.
Well, when we're talking about shotguns and pistols and all. I guess a lot of young people, though, learn how to shoot with, of course, a little pellet gun. They really start with BB gun, pellet gun. Then you work up to 410, 20 gauge, and 12 gauge, and then sort of But
I started out in the early 50s up at Fort Benning. Dad was stationed there part of the time. He was Navy, but he was teaching the engineers how to build the pontoon bridges across the river there at the back of Fort Benning. Well, the general allowed him to go out there on the weekend if they weren't jumping in airborne. And they had what they call parachute lofts that they hang the parachutes in to dry and all. Well, they're open. There's just a big roof and it's way up high. Well, it was nice because in the summertime we'd go out there, we could stand inside out of the heat and shoot out into that open field there where they jumped because there was nobody there on the weekends. And I used to take a little break top 22 7-shot H&R pistol with a little 4-inch barrel. That's what I started out with, and graduated to a 38 Model 10 Smith & Wesson. And then eventually I went on up to a 357 and, of course, 45.
Yeah.
But my favorite now is a 45. But, you know, starting a kid out that young, you know, they talk about all these, how dangerous and things are. I grew up in a house with 12 loaded guns in it. And I never touched a one because I knew from the age of 5, a gun is dangerous. If it's misused, it will hurt or kill you. And you don't touch it unless an adult's around.
Yeah.
And I was more afraid of my dad than I was that gun.
Well, you know, as I look back on it too, and a lot of our dads, like my dad was in World War II, and a lot of that generation, and they were so well exposed to the safety and the hazards and accidents, and we were just well told from such a young age about how dangerous a gun was, and we just learned to respect it from day one.
I would not pick one up unless my dad was in the room with me and he said it was okay.
Well, that was just something you didn't do,
No.
and you were so safe with it now.
Yep.
Sometimes I hunt with all kinds of different people, and sometimes I can see some little safety things these kids just haven't been taught, just because they don't have that respect for a gun.
When I go to shoot, a lot of times I'll take friends with me, but I won't take but 2 because you know, I don't know their experience, and I watch them constantly, and you have to because they'll forget. I had one, a guy turned around and says, "What's?" And I said, "No, keep that barrel down range.
Barrel down, that's
and keep it pointed away from everybody down range. So if it should go off, it's not going to hit anything that'll hurt." But he had almost turned around. Everybody's diving behind trucks and everything else, and I grabbed him and said, "No, keep it down range." He had forgot.
All right, let's take a quick break. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back. Let's take a quick look at our fish and game forecast today, brought to us by Mark Coward of Edgewater Beach Realty at 832-6000. The 2 best times today, 4:34 to 6:34 this morning and this evening from 5 till 7, right there. Good time to go. I think it'll be hopefully cleared up by then and excellent time to go. We'll talk about, you were just talking about that a while ago.
Yeah, zeroing. A lot of people will zero their rifle to hit at 100 yards. And if you're going to do some serious deer hunting, ideally, most of these rounds, like 243, 25-06, you know, if you will zero where that rifle hits about 2.5 to 2 3/4 inches high at 100 yards, the ballistics, it arcs, and as it drops, at 300 yards, you'll only be about 3 inches low. Well, when you do that, if you look at it from this standpoint, that's a circle about like that. Well, that's a kill shot, which means you can put the crosshairs right on your deer where you want to hit him, and you're going to be within 3 inches. And that's close enough that you're going to do enough damage, you'll drop him right there, or he won't go very far.
Yeah.
And you don't want to shoot an animal and miss him. Then you got to track him, and you know. And no, you want him to die quickly. And I like it when they just drop right where they're standing.
Yeah, hopefully most of us can do that. It don't always work out that way, though.
Yeah, it won't.
Just the fun of shooting itself. Sometimes we're talking about.
I'd rather shoot paper than anything I do.
Yeah, just skeet shooting on a Sunday afternoon, or a 20 gauge or something. That's a lot of fun.
It is. It's a hoot.
Yeah, and not a lot of places to go now, but you can buy these little skeet throwers and all that, and go out with a group of people, just take turns. And
we don't have one right here locally, but another thing that's a lot of fun is Single Action Shooting Society, where they dress up in their cowboy garb, and they use 38s and 45s and rifles and shotguns, and they have competition shoots. Now there's one, I think it's at Chipley, Panhandle Cattlemen's Club, and I know there was one in Tallahassee and one in Pensacola. And I went out and visited with them once here a few years ago, but it was really cold in February, and I didn't participate because I was freezing to death. But that's a lot of fun. You get to shoot pistols and shotguns and rifles all in that scenario.
At one time, Mr. Hilton had one up there on 231.
Yes, he did.
Good shooting range.
Yes,
it was just different trap shooting and all. And,
yep.
But it is fun. I would encourage you to do that because you can get those little machines fairly cheap and just throw them out there and you really to practice for bird shooting, quail hunting, or dove shooting, or duck hunting. You really need to get out there ahead of time and do that kind of stuff. Make sure you're swinging and all.
And you got to follow through. And that's where most people mess up, is they don't continue to follow through.
Yeah. So going back now, you say your favorite's a 45. Now, why is that your favorite?
I learned to shoot. I learned to shoot it in the Army, and I like the round. It has a tremendous amount of shock value and stopping power. Any handgun, if you had to use it in self-defense, it'll take 2 shots. I don't care what nobody says. You don't want to. You hope you never have to do that, but if you do, shoot twice, at least. But a 45 is just a very, very good inherent accurate round, and the 9mm is the most popular in the world, and it's lower in recoil. And with the new ammunition, it does a very good job as a defensive load. So does that 40 there.
Yeah.
It's kind of in between.
Well, I really enjoyed shooting that 40. I really have. It's just fun to get out on Sunday afternoon sometimes, just fire away. Make sure you're safe and all. Rick, we're going to wrap things up, buddy. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
See,
Thank you.
Rick just not only knows boats, he knows his guns too. So.
Yeah, and I'm semi-retired. Yates is off this morning. He's doing a damage survey up in Georgia, and I kind of like not having to get up except early mornings to get on TV
so
once
now
in
you
a while.
can shoot more.
That's exactly right.
Thank you, folks, for watching Panhandle Outdoors. We appreciate your viewership. You do something good for somebody today, and God bless.
Thanks for joining us for Panhandle Outdoors with Winston Chester. Panhandle Outdoors features hunting, fishing, and other activities and information to help you enjoy the great outdoors. Join us next time for Panhandle Outdoors.